What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the 90% podcast. We are back with an exciting episode today. Today we have the youngest guest that has ever been on the 90% podcast, my man, Alek Udeshi. How you doing today, Alek?
Good, how are you?
I'm great. I'm excited for this episode. So Alek has been training with me as a player for six years now?
6 years, yeah.
6 or 7 years now, somewhere in that range.
Yep.
And definitely been one of my favorite players to train, right? It's hard to say who is the number one top favorite, but you're definitely up there. And that's for multiple reasons, right? You come in consistently, you work hard, you listen, you pay attention, right? Pretty much all the qualities that coaches look for, you have. And you have a few nicknames around here. Some people call you like the mentor, right? Or that sort of stuff. I like to call you like the little phenom. You're like definitely a little phenom. You're on your way to being a amazing basketball player. You've gotten so skilled, and it's just been amazing to see, right? So anyways, let's give the listeners and viewers a quick overview. Who is Alek? How would you describe yourself? And just give us a quick 30-second to 2-minute overview.
So basically, I'm just a kid who loves to play basketball. I try to just be better than the guy next to me. I have this mentality like, hey, if you don't practice, if you don't work hard, if you don't put in the effort, then you're not going to get better. And if you don't get better, then you're obviously not going to succeed, because I want to go play NBA level basketball, college level basketball, and that's just the person I am. I'm going to put 100% effort, and I'm going to always try my best to make sure that happens.
Sweet. So how old are you right now?
I am 11 years old.
11 years old, and you started playing basketball at 5?
Yeah,
4?
5.
5?
5
Awesome.
years old.
And I'm sure there's been ups and downs along the journey, right? So let's talk about some of that. I do my best to keep everything positive, but I in reality, there is going to be some negatives, right? So what have been the hardest parts of basketball, or the downsides to you?
Probably like just getting conditioned in my speed mostly, and just really pushing my motor. But that's the main thing, and passing the ball.
Got it. Okay, so your conditioning, motor, and being able to pass the ball. And then what's been the best part? Like, what's been the best part of your journey? What are some milestones you've reached, or just some highlights of your basketball career?
So probably one of the milestones I reached, especially when I was younger, a personal one was achieving going between the legs. That one was a really personal goal that I've always wanted to achieve, because I've seen all of these NBA level players and all of these players use it, and they just implement it into their game, or they attack the hoop off of it, or they pass off of it. But the biggest highlight and the most favorite highlight of my career was when I hit a game winner in rec, and we won the game.
Was it right at the buzzer?
It was right at the buzzer.
Right at the buzzer.
Right at the buzzer.
Was it a 2 or a 3?
It was a 2, so I did it between the legs, and I spun, took one dribble, and it bounced up, and won in.
Ooh, that's exciting. Yeah, that's exciting right there. So, for other players out there that are maybe getting started in basketball, what advice do you have to them?
Don't give up, and no matter what anybody says, you can't do it, or whatever you think, oh, I'm not good at this, keep trying it, because you don't want to be afraid of that failure, because failure makes you get better, and that's the biggest piece of advice. Don't be afraid of failure.
I love that, yeah. And there's a quote somewhere that says, all failure is mental or imaginary, right, except for death, right? And so, and even that, don't want to get too deep into that, but essentially a lot of it is mental, right? And so you can get what somebody looks at as a failure, another person looks at as a lesson, right? Or even a success, right? And so for some players, maybe playing in a basketball game is a success, right? And maybe it's their first time playing, maybe they're coming back from an injury, so just them getting on the court, that's a success for them. Whereas other players may look at scoring 10 points as a failure, right? They get in the game and they're not happy with them scoring 10 points, right? So we call this the 90% podcast because the game, a lot of it is mental, right? And so you've probably experienced that through training, right? Maybe there's days where you want to show up for training, maybe there's days where you don't want to show up, right? A lot of it can be a mental battle, right? And then even on the court where you're shooting, you might miss a shot, miss another one, and you got to be able to have self-talk to get yourself back, right? And so one thing that I've seen with you that I think you're great at, and I'd like you to touch on this, is I call it PMA, which is positive mental attitude, right? You have a very positive attitude, and you're able to maybe pull yourself out of those slumps pretty quickly, whereas other players may sit in them and not be able to talk as positively. So how have you achieved such a positive mental attitude?
Probably, just the environment that I've been born in. I think we've always had a positive mindset and a growth mindset, not a mindset where if you get like a bad grade on a test, then you're not good and you're, just thinking of all these things where people are saying, oh, you need to do better on this, you need to do better on that, which is fine, but you need to recover from that and say, hey, I didn't know this part, but I need to study it more. I need to reevaluate how I played or reevaluate how I personally did and change that and implement new moves and change my moves into the gameplay.
I love it. Yeah.
And positive books also. I've been reading some, and one thing I have to say is you have to be a coffee bean, which means you don't want to be something that when you struggle, you don't want to like melt. You don't want to break down. You want to be a coffee bean because coffee beans change their environment. When they get boiled in water, they make the water their color. So they change the environment.
I love that. Yeah. So adaptable, right? Being adaptable and staying true to who you are, making the people around you adapt to you, essentially, right? So hey, that's huge. You mentioned your environment, right? So I am thinking of your parents, right? So you credit some of your success towards who's raising you?
Yeah, I credit most of my success towards them because I would not be probably in this gym without them because they are an amazing piece of any project or any assignment, and they just will motivate me to where I'll get it done and I'll get it done efficiently because of their motivation.
I love it. Yeah. And you also touched on like if you get a bad grade, right, make mistakes, that sort of thing. And what I love is just that's really what it means to have a positive mental attitude. It's easy for everybody to have a positive mental attitude when it's all sunshine and rainbows and it's all good, but it's when something goes bad, how are you able to reframe it into a positive light? And a lot of the times you're already mad at yourself, right? Or you maybe have some negative thoughts if something goes wrong. And so having parents or coaches or that sort of stuff that pour onto the fire more with more negative emotions isn't going to do anything, right? Or if you do it to yourself, right? If you have one little negative thought like, oh, I suck because I got this bad grade, right? And then you stay in that, it can be a downward spiral pretty fast, right? So being able to recognize the pattern, like you said, right? And then, okay, what can I control out of this? And how can I spiral it back up, right? To learn and get better from it, right? And you've done an amazing job with that, right? And so let's get into some of these questions. So normally on this podcast, right, it's me asking the guests all the questions, but I love that you came prepared. You have a few questions from me or for me, right? And so feel free, we don't have to go in order, but feel free to ask me any of these questions and I'll answer one, and then I may kind of bounce it back on to you, or we'll just see where it leads us.
Yeah, so my first question was, in your opinion, what separates good players from great players?
Yep. So the two biggest things that come to mind, right, is number one is consistency, right? So you could be a good player and just kind of show up when you want, where you want, that sort of thing, right? And get away with it, right? But if you're going to be a great player, if you think of all the greats, they're ultra consistent. So they're showing up every single day, multiple times a day, right? And so they're waking up early, they're getting a workout in. If they have school, then it's before school. If they're past school, maybe at the pro basketball level, then that's their job, and they're waking up and taking care of their body, whether it's some sort of strength and conditioning or mobility workout, and then doing it again in the evening, right? So consistency is number one, and that's consistency in all areas of your life, right? Not just in one area. You got to be consistent across the board. Number two is when we're especially, consistency can tie in with basketball players, which is your question, right? But that also ties in with all areas of life. The second one also ties in with all areas of life, which is speed. So the people that I see that have the most success, I'm talking speed in their decisions, right? And so if they know they want to do something, like for example, if you want to play in the rec league, you're not going to wait to sign up. You're going to sign up immediately, right? Or if you want to play for a travel basketball team, or if you want to make the school team, or if you want to, whatever your goal is, you start taking action on that goal immediately. But I also am talking about speed on the court. So the good players can play fast, but they can only play fast for a little bit of the game, right? The great players can play fast the entire game, right? And they know when to tone it down. But there's a quote from Gino, I don't know how to say his last name, but he used to coach UConn. He may still coach there, I'm not positive. The women's team, right? One of the most successful women's basketball coaches. They've won a bunch of national titles, and he has a quote that says, when the good players get tired, that's when the great players come in and kick their ASS, right? And so the great players are pretty much just waiting, right? Because they know everybody else is about to get tired, and then that's when I come out. Does that make sense? Kobe, there's a game, I believe it's a playoff game, it might be a final game, I'm not positive on that. The Lakers are down 27. You see everybody else on the Lakers kind of giving up. Going into the fourth quarter, they're down 27. Kobe goes into Mamba mentality mode and brings them back. So that's what the great players do.
Yeah, that was against the Magic, I believe.
Was it?
Yeah, it was against the Magic, against Dwight Howard and the Magic.
Sweet. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch that game.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the Magic.
Yeah. Do you want to add anything onto that? Is there anything that you see that separates good players from great players?
Yeah, I would say mostly practice. I mean, practice and, as you said, consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two most important things to have in life and in basketball, because you need practice for anything.
How do you define practice?
Repetitive activity of just doing something over and over and over and over again, even if you perfect it.
Uh-huh. What if you're practicing, but you're practicing the wrong thing? For example, a player, let's say they're shooting with two hands and they're following through like this. Do you believe there's more to practice than just the reps?
Yes. I would say there is more to practice than just reps. I feel like quality over quantity. If you do something so many times that you're doing it wrong, then it's not helping you, it's not benefiting you, you're not doing it the right way, then that's not practice. You're practicing the wrong thing.
Uh-huh.
But if you're doing something the right way and you have less reps, you're getting better.
Mm-hmm. And so how do you know if you're doing it right or wrong?
Probably, I want to say by feedback
Yes,
from coaches.
Absolutely.
And taking that and, implementing that into your game. Because when I was younger, I shot with two hands, and I was like, oh, why isn't it going in? And, well, then Coach Tyler, you said, well, you need one hand in the cookie jar,
Uh-huh.
but you need another hand just on the side guarding it to make sure nobody takes it from you.
Gotcha. I don't know if I said that nobody takes it from you. Maybe I said that, but
Told it to me.
more I think the guide hand is to support the shooting hand, right? And so it's to guide where you want the ball to go, right? And point and aim and make sure that you're not going too far left, too far right, right? Being able to keep it straight while the shooting hand actually gives it the power and the flick and the arc that it needs.
Yeah,
right?
and then also film, of course.
Film?
Film,
Yes.
watching
Yes.
correct players that do the best, watching their film can help you learn so much. Like, part of the reason why I'm good at basketball is because I've watched Coach Tyler play numerous times, and I'm watching basketball, watching certain players play. I see their moves, I say, okay, that's very cool, and I either change it or I implement it into my game.
I love that. That's huge. That I believe is one of the biggest missing links for players that are maybe going from just being a recreational for fun player to being more of a serious hooper is they're watching basketball, whether it be, like you said, watching somebody in person or watching NBA players on the TV or film study or watching themselves, right? And that's something that we've done is like you'll be training, I record you and then quickly show you, hey, look, your hands are doing this, right? Or your feet, or hey, you made this pass, did you see this guy? He's more open than this guy, right? And so big time right there, practice, feedback, film study, right? All of that stuff can definitely add to separating good from great. What else do you got for me?
So my second question was, what do coaches want to see in tryouts? Because what I put was hustle, sportsmanship, leadership, and responsibility, and effort, of course.
So absolutely agree with most of what you said. Can you repeat everything real quick? Hustle, agree with that.
Sportsmanship,
Mm-hmm.
leadership,
Yep.
responsibility.
What do you mean by that one?
Like taking accountability and responsibility for your actions, like which responsibility kind of piggybacked off of leadership. And what I mean by that is if somebody makes a bad pass or a bad shot, they want to see is, hey, my bad. They don't want to see, oh, you should have done this. Oh,
Got it.
you should have done that.
Yeah.
Stop making excuses. Oh no.
So yeah, accountability, yep,
Yeah.
and that definitely ties in with the leadership. Responsibility, I was a little confused on initially, but I now agree with that because I've seen players literally not make middle school teams simply from not being responsible enough to prepare for tryouts. So a lot of the times when you get into middle school and high school, there's all these forms you have to fill out, right? And maybe like you have to go get a medical clearance or that sort of thing, a physical, that's what they call it, right? You gotta get a physical, and there's players that are great basketball players, maybe top 5, top 10 at their school, but they never go get their physical. Day of tryouts come, they'll have a table set up like this, and you have to check in with your physical, and that player forgot, they didn't get it, right? And now they simply can't try out, right? And so being responsible definitely ties in, and that can go, we could blame parents for that and say, oh, my mom didn't tell me to get that, right? But ultimately, it's like you said, take accountability, right? If you were the one that wanted to make the team and try out, you should have personally read what the requirements were for tryout day, right? Awesome. What's question number 3?
This one was strictly for you. It was, what was your motivation and rationale to make FastFenom?
Yeah, so my motivation to make FastFenom was initially, I had a kid that I was training. So I was working at an ice cream shop. The owners of the ice cream shop asked me to train their son, right? And he really wanted to get better at basketball. So my initial, I guess, motivation was to get him better. And then he asked if his friends could join. And the next thing you know, I had like 20 kids. And so my initial motivation was to just get those kids better, right? And then their parents started handing me cash, right? I never asked for it, they just handed it to me because they said that they paid their baseball instructor or their karate instructor or their tutor, and they felt their son was having their best hour or couple hours of their week with me, and they felt bad and felt like I deserved some money, right? And so I was still working at the ice cream shop, and then I was making some cash, so then I was a little bit motivated by the money. And then I was still contemplating playing college basketball myself, but I injured my back my senior year of high school, and I and I still could have played college basketball even with the back injury. You push through injuries, right? It's part of being an athlete. But I already had this group of like 20 kids I was training, again, making a little bit of money off of it. And I looked at the two paths and I thought of long term, what do I want to do? Do I want to still pursue being a professional basketball player? Because that was my ultimate goal as a young kid, is I want to play pro basketball. Or do I want to go into the coaching and training realm, right? And I figured if I could get a head start on coaching and training and get into it early, right, rather than going and spending 2 or 4 years playing college basketball, that it would be a better decision, right? And then, so I didn't necessarily have the name FastFenom created then, but I was training players and I made the decision, all right, I'm gonna go all in on this. And then where FastFenom came from, number one, I told you I like speed, right? And so that's where I got fast. And then I was looking around and a lot of the players that were getting a lot of recognition at a young age were being labeled as phenoms, right? And phenom is normally spelled P-H-E-N-O-M, but I was like, I want to do a little play on words. I don't want to do it like that. So I thought, what if I just go fast and then phenom with an F? And it's a little unique, and some people say, oh, you should be clear, not clever. What does fast phenom even mean? But what it means is the tagline, right? And so the tagline, you've seen it through the years, is exceed your goals, the limit does not exist. So my ultimate motivation for really getting this started and off the ground was I want to inspire kids and everybody in the community, and I guess the world, to set goals, but then realize they can exceed those goals. And you set a goal initially, because that's the perspective that you have, and the awareness and into life and what you believe you can achieve. But then as you get closer and closer, and as you ultimately reach it, you realize, wait, I can exceed this goal. And then when you do that enough times, you realize that there is no limit, right? And so that was a long answer there, but that was the motivation behind creating FastFenom.
Did you want to hear my other questions?
Yes.
All right. So for my fourth question, it was, how do players like overcome bad performances? Which we already talked about this, but I just wanted you to piggyback off it.
Again, a bad performance is subjective, right? And so part of it can be simply deciding that it's not a bad performance, right? And so, like, what I believe is a bad performance, you may believe is a good performance, right? And so, but if we are gonna say that we're just focused on me and I believe it's a bad performance, right? Then from there, how do they overcome bad performances? So one more part of just like perspective, right, is number one, understanding that there are gonna be bad performances. So if we just take thirds, right, if we just wanna split it into thirds or halves, right, if we say half of my performances I'm gonna label as good, the other half I'm gonna label as bad, right? Or I can split it into thirds, 1/3 of them are gonna be bad, 1/3 average, and 1/3 good, right? So just having that perspective that not every day can be a good day, right, is number one on the perspective side. And then overcoming bad performances, I personally believe it goes back to the foundation of just getting back in the gym and getting to work, right? And so if you have a bad performance and you don't like the way you performed, whether that be on the basketball court, at school, in life, whatever it is, don't beat yourself up over it, like we kind of already talked about, but just get back to work. And a lot of the times getting back to work will give you the answer to overcoming.
Nice.
What are your thoughts on that?
Probably like reflecting on it, first and foremost, seeing like really how you did, and taking also criticism. And when somebody says that you have a bad game, you have to take that. You don't want to yell back at them, hey, I didn't have a bad game, or like, hey, you want to be out there doing that? You want to take it and be like, okay, thank you, what can I do better? And you want to take that and take their feedback, and you want to practice what they said and implement that into the game.
Yes.
In which, again, people are not always right, but you still want to practice on what they're saying, just in case it might come in handy one day.
I 1000% agree. And I missed that, so I'm glad I kind of bounced the question back onto you, because if you do what I said, and if you have a bad game and you just go get back in the gym, you could be working on the wrong thing, right? And so step one is evaluating, right? Why was it a bad game, or where could I have done better, right? And then from there, then you kind of make a list or have an idea of exactly what you need to work on, and then you go to work and get some feedback and that sort of stuff.
My fifth question was, what are some ways that you could promote growth in players?
Promote growth in players?
Yeah.
What are some ways I can promote growth in players? I'm a little confused on the question. Can you ask it a different way?
Like, what are some ways that you can help players become, like, better? Like, what are some motivations that you give to your players to motivate them that they want to be better?
Got it. Yep. So one is, so what are some ways that I motivate players to get better?
Yeah. What I put for it is, like, basically, I look at the aspect of it. If you don't do something like this, then you won't get better.
Uh-huh.
But if you do something like this, then you will get better, and you will slowly but surely keep getting better and eventually become that top tier player that you hopefully want to be. And if you just don't do that, like, this is you. This is somebody who's not as good as you at. You don't practice, and if this person practices, you're gonna stay at the same level, but they're gonna keep going higher and higher. But if you both practice, then you're still better.
Yep. I get what you're saying. So, some ways to motivate players to get better, right? And so what you said is, I guess, like telling them that there's an opportunity cost of not getting better, right? Because everybody's going to continue to get better. So if you don't, then you're going to get left behind, right? So that's definitely one way that I give perspective to players. Another way is showing them where they started and how far they've come, right? And so maybe it ties in with what you said on the previous question, like reflecting can be a great way to motivate more progress, right? It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, and again, everybody's getting better, so if you're around the same 10 people all the time and all of those 10 have gotten better, you may not realize how much better you've gotten, right? But if you just zoom in on you and you look back on your own progress, and you say, wow, I have made all this progress, right? I couldn't go through my legs, now I'm going through my legs, hitting spin moves, hitting game winners, right? Imagine how much further I can go if I keep doing this, right? And me and you had a little bit of a conversation about this the other day where we talked about another player who you feel is better than you, right? They're also 2 years older than you, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of gave you perspective of you have, and we had a player who could do math really fast, but 700 and something days of, they have a 700-day advantage on you right now, right? So imagine where you'll be in 700 days if you keep working every single day, right? You could be, if you got 1% better every day, you could be 7 times better than you are right now.
Yeah.
Right? So I like what you said. Fear can be a great motivator, but I also think looking back and realizing that you're just getting started, right? And you're not even in the first minute of the first quarter of your basketball journey.
Yeah.
So there's a long way to go.
And my final question was, what are some non-physical ways that you could help players get better?
Yep.
For me, what I put was film and reflection, which I know I'm repeating film and reflection a lot, but those are two really main aspects of really anything in life that you want to get better at.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah.
I completely agree. And feel free to keep repeating it because people need to be reminded more than they need to be taught, right? All the information's out there. People have heard that before, but maybe they're not taking action on it. So if you're not taking action on reflecting, like if you don't have a system of after games, how to reflect, and maybe not immediately after your games, but maybe 24 hours later, having a reflection process, answering a few questions to yourself what you did well, what you could have done better, what you want to implement next game, right? So reflection is huge, watching film is huge. Other ways, I personally believe in meditating, right, and using your own mind. And so maybe that's going on a walk in nature, just thinking about where you're at in your basketball journey and where you want to be. Maybe it's sitting in a chair in a quiet room, dark room, and just closing your eyes and that sort of thing. Maybe it's writing down, right? And so everybody has different ways of what I call meditating, right? Some people like to write just all the thoughts that come to their mind and then analyze that and figure out what the best ones are. Some people, like I said, like to go on a walk, sit down in a quiet room. Those are good ways. Other non-physical ways is who you surround yourself with, right? Which I guess that is physical because it's a physical environment, but it can also be non-physical by who you're surrounding yourself with virtually, right? There's maybe some kids that are just playing video games all day and then expecting to become a better basketball player, where there's other kids that are maybe in a community online where they're talking with other kids their age and breaking down film and asking, hey, how'd you play? How'd you do this in this game? That sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Great questions, man. You really came prepared. This has been a really fun podcast, and let's go maybe another 2 or 3 minutes. I'll just ask you a few questions and see where this goes, and then we'll wrap it up, and we're actually going to get on the court and train after this. So what, let's see, I have a few questions that I want to ask you. So the first one is, what's your current goal?
My current goal,
when it relates to basketball?
like any goal.
Yeah, short term, long term. Do you have a specific goal in mind that you're working towards right now?
Yeah, next year, I have 2 goals, is that okay?
You can have 2, 5, however many you want.
My first goal is to get faster and more conditioned. And I need to do that by eating healthier food, and I need to commit to waking up in the morning and pushing my limits, like waking up, going on the treadmill, and running on the treadmill. Like my mom, she wakes up at 4 a.m. and she does her work, and then at 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. she either goes to the hospital and does her work, or she runs on the treadmill and she works out. And she's gotten really fast doing that. So that's my first goal. And my second goal, making the middle school basketball team next year, because then I'll be in middle school, and I feel like that's really the start of it's the roots of a tree that can go on for forever. Because middle school games are very competitive.
Oh yeah.
And they're not like rec where it's like, oh, you won, good job, here's a pat on the back. Like,
It's a new level when you get into middle school, right?
yeah, it's very competitive.
On the last podcast with Jake, we talked about Jake got cut from 7th grade and 8th grade year in middle school and 9th grade, right? And so we talked about how middle school and basketball is where, or middle school and high school basketball is where it's like a funnel that starts to weed out the kids that are not serious, right? And so we start to see who's serious about this, who's not, and like you said, and I'm glad you're already thinking of this, right? Because you pretty much have a year to prepare, and you've done some reflecting. You know where your areas of weakness are, right? It's time to get in better shape, get faster,
Get stronger.
build up the work ethic, be willing to work out before school, all that stuff, right? And there's no better time than now, right? So I'm glad you recognize that. So hey, I love it. You mentioned a great like short-term and kind of longer-term goal with making middle school basketball. And then last couple questions here is, if there is a player, right, and maybe they're considering quitting basketball, right? Because I see this often, right? It's a tough game, right? When you're going through the journey, you maybe see other players that are better than you, or you've seen other of your friends quit, right? And maybe you're considering quitting. What would you say to a player that is considering quitting basketball?
First off, I would ask them why, and if they have there's really no good reason for quitting anything. That just shows you don't have commitment for anything. That will go on your track record forever.
Uh-huh.
If you quit one thing, it's gonna follow you for the rest of your life. And second, I would say, like, you have to get better. Just because your friends are quitting, just because there's other people better than you, doesn't mean you have to be like your friends, and it doesn't mean that you're not gonna be as good as those kids that are better than you. You just have to get in the gym, reflect first, actually, get in the gym, practice, 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 and practice. That's the recipe for success.
I love it. I love it.
Just practice.
All right, last question that I have, and then if you have any more, feel free to ask. If not, we'll wrap it up. What are the biggest things that you've learned from me and just, I guess, FastFenom in general? I know you, so, and I'll just kind of throw this out there, right? You've been probably the most consistent player, right? You've even been more consistent than me at my own facility, right? We went through ups and downs of, we built up this gym, and then I got excited to open another gym, and then I'm trying to balance multiple gyms, and I wasn't here as often, and then you were working out with a bunch of other trainers here, right? But you've stayed very, very consistent, almost like an anchor or a rock, right? You've held it down here, you've mentored other kids throughout the process, right? So, yeah, what are the biggest lessons, things that you've learned? They can be like physical stuff, like some of the favorite skills you've learned, right? Maybe it's like game concepts, maybe it's mindset, maybe what are just your biggest takeaways of being a student here at FastFenom?
So probably the biggest takeaway I've ever gotten, and especially from FastFenom, never give up, no matter how hard something is, and don't even call it, hey, I'm not able to do this. Say, hey, I'm not able to do this yet. Because you need to have a growth mindset, which is what Coach Tyler has taught me. You need to have that growth mindset, because then you're going to get better. And you're going to slowly get better. Otherwise, if you don't have that growth mindset, then you're just like, oh, I can't do this. And when you put those things out into the universe, then they might happen because of your negative attitude. But that's the biggest thing I would say. Growth mindset and never give up.
I love it. Alrighty. Any final words? It could be anything you want, anybody you want to give a shout out to, or anything that you want people to hear last on this podcast.
Just never give up. And always remember, your actions have an impact on everything.
Let's go. Alrighty, guys, this is a wrap for today's episode. Alek, I really appreciate you being on. It's been a blast. I'm not sure how long this was, maybe 15 to 30 minutes, but you are one of the most well-spoken kids your age, right? And you are going to go on to do huge things in the game of basketball and the game of life. And just never forget positive mental attitude. We call it the 90% podcast because the game is 90% mental. The other half is physical. All right, that's a wrap for today, guys. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, stay tuned in, share this with a friend, and that's it.
Comment if you think I'll beat him today.
He will not beat me one-on-one, but comment if you think he will. Maybe we'll record that too. Peace out.
Bye.
Good job, Alek. Great job, right?